Hello, my name is Jen and welcome to Gentle Pilates for chronic health conditions. I'll call it that because people that are interested in joining, we've got sort of an umbrella of all different needs and health issues. Little disclaimer, boring stuff to start with. If you're not sure whether Gentle Pilates is right for you individually, please do have a conversation with your doctor beforehand. I am not a medical professional. I am a Pilates instructor with a fair bit of rehab knowledge, but not a medical professional, not a physiotherapist. If you are going to participate in any of the online sessions, you are responsible for your own safety and health and well-being, so just make sure you've got a little bit of space to move around in. If any of the movements don't feel good for you, please do stop them right away, and depending on how you feel, you can either continue to the next section or please do stop completely if you're not feeling too good. Today I'm going to be teaching pretty much everything from the floor. I have a cushioned yoga Pilates mat, but you could, if you're struggling to get to the floor, you could certainly do some of the moves from bed or a chair. Optional extras, a towel and a pillow or a cushion may or may not be useful. So we're going to be doing about 20 to 30 minutes to start with. It can be really intense as somebody that is chronically sick to try and get through a whole hour of exercise. So I thought we'll start small. You guys can let me know how you feel. If you want a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, that's totally doable. So to begin with, just in your own time, just slowly bringing yourself to lying down on your back. You may possibly want a cushion or your towel behind you to support your neck. Please come down nice and slowly. For those of you with chronic lower back issues, sometimes it can feel quite nice to have a towel or a cushion underneath the lower back as well, but I'll leave that to you. If you prefer to have your legs straight, that's absolutely fine. I've currently got the feet placed flat on the floor with the legs bent and just starting to find that position. So just have a tiny little nod of the chin just to make sure your vision isn't going behind you. You can close your eyes at this point. You could put some calm, nice, relaxing music on. I just want you to find some deep breaths. Now, depending on what health condition you're facing, a deep breath can be quite challenging. If you've got thoracic endometriosis like me, quite sort of restricted around your diaphragm and your lung, easier said than done. So just whatever suits you, a deep breath in through nose and out through mouth. And I want you to continue that. Might be useful placing the hands on the side of the rib cage. And I want you to feel the rib cage expand out to the side. Think about pulling the breath even to the back of the rib cage. Really feel that rib cage expand into your mat or your bed if you're in bed, or if you're sat up in a chair, maybe against a cushion. So your deep breaths might look a little bit different to mine. They might be a bit shallower. They might be a little bit longer. You should almost feel that expansion around the ribs, and you'll find the belly sort of rises and falls. We're just going to take 2 more there. Of course, if you'd rather be more propped up for doing these kind of things, you're welcome to put an extra cushion or pillow just to give you a little bit of lift there. What I'm going to move from is a tiny little rock into the pelvis. Now you've got to be a little bit careful with pelvic-based conditions. Endometriosis is a classic, adenomyosis, PCOS even, because if you're like me and you've got or certainly had a lot of adhesions around the pelvis, it can be quite hard and difficult and painful to move. So I want you to start really small. Imagine you've got maybe a little Malteser or a small ball right down where your pubic bone is, so right down near where your groin is. And we're going to roll that imaginary ball into your belly button. If I just lift my top here, you'll see I've got the tiniest sort of bit of curve here through the lower back. That's just sort of where my natural posture, my natural spine position is. And then my imaginary ball, if I have it say placed here, take a breath. As you breathe out, I'm just tilting the pelvis slightly As I said, think of rolling that imaginary ball towards the belly button. You can see how the lower back now is really sort of tightened into the mat and have almost created like a hollow sensation through the belly. And then just take a breath, the pelvis tilts, relax back to your start position. And you might, as I said, you might need to make that really, really small, especially if you suffer with pelvic-based conditions. So all I'm doing here is following the breath that we had a moment ago. Deep breath, almost that hollow sensation through the belly. The lower back just tightens to the floor briefly as you breathe out. And we're just going to take a couple more there. It's almost like your pelvis is kind of rocking into, I don't know, think of it like rocking in the sea or rocking in a boat. Alright, now if that feels okay, we're going to progress. If it doesn't feel okay, you're just going to stay with that. You can place your hands on your hips if that's useful, arms down by side if that's more comfortable, that's where it's typically taught from. Or if you're just doing the little pelvic rocks, maybe place the hands just to the side of the rib cage. If that feels okay, we start the same with a deep breath. Breathe out, think of that imaginary ball rolling to the belly. The pelvis tilts slightly, if it should feel like the lower back is nice and strongly connected to your mat, to your floor. And then think of peeling one vertebrae off the floor at a time, if that's okay for you. So we start with right down where your bum is, right down low. I've now got this space created under here. I'm now squeezing into the back of the legs where the hamstrings are and pushing the heels. So through the feet, nice and strong to the floor. And I've just started to roll up through the spine here. What you want to be careful of here is you don't go too high and create this huge arch in the back. That does not feel good, okay? So when you're lifting up, slight tilt first, we call it kind of like a little tailbone tuck, and then a roll lowest part here, so where your bum is, and then to the top part of your bum, and if it feels okay, we go a bit higher. You do not have to lift all the way up if you don't want to. And then I want you to think of just sectioning that down one vertebrae at a time, so going from the shoulders to the mid-back, lower back, bum last. And we're just going to take about 3 there. Get that little tilt through the pelvis, so that rock, so the lower back feels tight down just for a moment. And then we're sectioning bum first, lower back, mid-back, up to shoulders, only if you feel okay. Take a nice deep breath, and then we'll breathe out again to lower. If you find that you're doing anything like rocking the knees around quite a lot here, you could place maybe a cushion or a pillow between the knees and slightly squeeze into it to just give you a little bit more stability. Remember, as you're coming into that higher position, if you're lifting up, be careful you don't go too high. Control it really, really steady down. We want to get that kind of spinal articulation control through the lower back. And then once you're back here, you can kind of just relax where you are. We're going to bring the feet and the knees a little bit closer together. You can move the arms slightly wider away from your body if you want to. And then we're just going to slowly allow the knees to drop towards one side. You go as far as you feel comfortable. You're not going to try and force the knees over to the floor if they don't want to go. Your lower back will lift at this point. Now for me, I can get my knees a lot lower as they drop right, because I haven't had any surgery on this side. Whereas compared to when I drop my knees left, and my kind of stretching side is now my right, where I've had several operations all through this side of the chest, it feels really quite tight and quite a strong pull. So you just kind of got to find what works for you. It might be that you don't need to drop the knees too far at all. And you can just breathe out as we go into the stretch there. Breathe in through the middle, lower back should feel like it connects into your floor just for a moment. And then breathe out as we go to the other side. And we're just going to take 2 more there. Just in your own time. Arm position, hand position is entirely up to you. Head can stay on that pillow or cushion, or it can be on the floor if that feels more comfortable. And then this time, or should I say next time you've got the knees dropping left, we're going to allow them to go all the way, and we're actually going to roll over with it. Here's where it's quite useful to place cushion, towel, pillow, maybe under the head. And if you find it quite uncomfortable to lie on that hip, which a lot of people do, This is where you might want to lie on something that's a bit more cushioned there as well. So potential, could have some cushion in here for the head and a towel, so certainly something a little bit smaller for that hip. Now here I want you to think of stacking the shoulders on top of each other, stacking the hips on top of each other, and even the knees and the feet. You want to be a bit careful of this bottom waist on the left side, not kind of sagging and completely collapsing into the floor, especially for those of you who are like me and also have scoliosis to contend with. So think of almost like you can slide your fingertips just underneath that bottom waist. You've got your hands free, you can just relax your arms anywhere that's comfortable. And then we're going to extend into this top leg. And I want you to think of keeping the hips stacked, so be really careful this top hip isn't rolling backwards. And then from there, I've got the I've got the leg around about hip height here. All I'm going to do is take a breath and breathe out and do a really small lift, very, very slowly. Breathe in, I'm just lowering back down. Breathe out, I'm lifting up. Breathe in to lower. You can rest at any time. Just start to feel heavy, quite heavy on this side. You've got to be really careful here that you're not shooting this leg right up to the ceiling. Even more important when you've got things like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. You want to keep it quite small, certainly to begin with. Or even if you're prone to sciatica, I personally have quite a lot of issues with my nerves from endometriosis in my hips. My hips do get quite sore. So we should be on about number 5 or so here. Keep it really, really steady. Remember that tiny little gap under that left waist. We're just lifting into this top leg ever so slightly, lowering back down. And we're just going to do about another 3. 2. And then last one. And then just slowly drawing that in and resting it there. When you are ready, please very slowly reposition back to where we were. Okay? So just that single exercise on the side for now. Usually we would build up to doing a few, but for today I'm just going to introduce that single one. So again, you can have cushion, pillow under your head. This time we're going to think about almost, imagine you're trying to draw the belly button slightly down towards the floor. You want to be really careful here, you're not sort of flaring the ribs out, so think of even sinking the rib cage down towards the floor. Be nice and sort of relaxed through that sort of front of the torso. And engaging your core muscles ever so slightly. So you don't need to do that pelvic tilt that we did before. I want you to think of, we'll keep the lower back fairly strong into your mats, I think. Think of the rib cage coming down towards the floor as well, especially the back of the rib cage, arms wherever you're comfortable. So you can feel your core muscles engaging just ever so slightly, nothing too strong. All we're going to do here is pick up the left heel, so it's just hovered above the floor, or the bed if you're lying in bed. You're keeping your core engaged, and you're thinking, imagine you're sliding that left heel all the way along the floor. Think of that sensation of just hollowing your belly button down to the floor slightly as we just drag it back and swap over. So the goal here on this move, it's not particularly complicated, but you want to be really careful that your pelvis doesn't start rocking around. So you're really looking for core stability. If it's useful, please do place the hands maybe at the side of the hips. I'm almost hollowing, just as a reminder, hollowing the belly button down, staying nice and stable through the trunk area, through the torso, the rib cage is nice and strong into your mat or your bed. And then I'm just gently drawing that heel in. So as you go into these heel slides, we're alternating left and right, just going long through the leg. If it feels okay, you can go all the way out. And then just keeping your core ever so slightly switched on as we draw it back and into that start position. We're going to aim for another 4, so we've got 2 more on each side. If you can, you're breathing out as we slide the heel as if it's hovering just above the floor. So it's not quite touching, but it's only just lifted. And remember, as steady as you can through the pelvis, the hips in particular. We've got 2 left, so 1 more right, 1 more left. And then this time we're going to go back to our side lying position, but this time we'll be lying on our right hand side instead of our left. I'm going to swing myself completely around so you guys can see, okay? So remember, you can always place that towel underneath the hip, pillow or cushion underneath the head. Getting into position there, the hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked. We're going to keep the bottom leg bent. We're going to extend the top leg, making sure that top hip is not rolling backwards. Remember, as we lift the leg, it's just about hip height, nothing too high. We're going to breathe out as we lift. Remember, that lift is very small. And then just lower back level with hip. And as a reminder, on this right hand side, see if you can almost think of sliding the fingertips just underneath the waist so that you're not collapsing down into the floor. A small lift, a small lower. You can take a rest anytime you need. I'm now working on what is my sorer side. I'm quite affected with nerve issues in this left hip. So I tend to fatigue quite quickly on this side. So you could always do 1 or 2 at a time and then rest. And for those of you that feel okay, we're going to go for about another 5. Small lift, deep breath in, lower it down, and 4, 3, 2, and last one. And rest it there. And as I said, that was all we're going to do on the side stuff today. I'm just going to swivel around onto my back one final time. You can do this with legs straight or bent, whatever you prefer. And I just want you to lie in what feels like a natural position. Just be really careful that you're not sticking your ribs right out. So same as before, think of sinking the back of the ribs just gently down into the mat. Don't force them. It doesn't need to be anything too tight there. I'm going to give you options for this next part. So I want you to think of that same sensation of almost hollowing the belly down slightly so that your core feels like it's engaged a little bit. From there, think of the palms of the hands facing in towards your thighs and your hips. We're just going to reach the fingertips long. So it should almost feel like you're pulling your shoulders down away from your neck. Take a breath. And then we're just going to gently start to lift up. Now, if you have, or if you're prone to subluxing in your shoulders, or you're very hypermobile, or if you know that you've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that affects the shoulders, please don't go any higher than above about chest height. So all I want you to concentrate on is following your breath. You've got a little tiny bit of engagement through your core muscles. As I said, it's almost like you're trying to just hollow them slightly down towards the floor so they've got a bit of tension. The arms go long, so you're almost stretching the fingertips as if you're about to grab hold of your feet. Breathing out. Whatever point feels comfortable. If that feels fine, you could always make it a little bit bigger. I'm just going to wriggle this way so you can see a little bit better. So you might find, if you feel quite stable through the torso, you feel like your core is slightly switched on, please go quite slow with this. Only if it feels okay, we'll go overhead. Only if it feels okay. Take a deep breath and then exhale as we return. So you're just choosing your own range of movement here. Or if it feels too much with both arms, you could always do one right, one left. Entirely up to you, and alternate it if that's better for you. If you are going to reach the arms higher than shoulder height, just be really careful as you work more upwards that the shoulders don't kind of start coming towards the ears. We want to keep this space around the head, ears, neck and shoulders. I'm just going to take 2 more of those. You might find your range of movement is enough just there. Your priority is deep breaths, slight engagement of your core, and controlled movements lifting the arms, big or as small as you like. Alrighty, so we've got a final one, or a couple more if you're making the range of movement quite small, which is fine. And I'm going to say, whenever you are next lifted with your arms above chest or belly, certainly no higher than that, I want you to keep that sensation as if you're trying to hollow around the belly slightly down, so as if you're sort of pulling your belly button slightly towards your spine. Nothing too intense, you shouldn't need to hold your breath. Please do not do this next section if you have any problems with your neck, and be very, very careful if you've got vertigo or POTS. So very, very careful with those in particular. If you don't want to do the next section, all you're going to concentrate is that strong hold through the belly and deep breaths. For everybody else, take a deep breath when you're ready. Think of gently pulling your ribcage towards your belly. Chin slightly nods to the chest. We breathe out as we come into a very tiny lift here. And then breathe in and slowly down. No matter where you are with your health, please do this very, very slowly. Hopefully it helps you avoid getting dizzy. If you do get dizzy, please do not lift your head up off the floor, and you can concentrate on a deep breath and a strong engagement through the belly and not do the lift. You're just going to take 4. Take a deep breath as you prepare. Remember, almost as if you're sliding your ribs ever so slightly down to your belly. Chin nods to the chest slightly. We breathe out to lift. We'll go for 3 if you can. 2. Remember, no need to lift the head, neck and shoulders if you don't want to. This is our last one here. And then no matter where you are, just relax for a second. It might feel good to hug one knee gently in, and then the other side, or even both knees together for a moment. When you're individually ready, I want you to make sure you do this transition very, very slowly, especially if you're prone to dizziness, postural changes. We are slowly going to roll onto our side. And then in your own time, transitioning then to a 4-point kneeling position. Now, plenty of people don't like being on their wrists. You are absolutely fine doing this on your forearms, okay? And if you don't want to be that low, you could always prop your forearms on the edge of a chair or the edge of a sofa, something like that, as long as you're safe and it's stable. If you're okay on your wrist, that's where I'm going to teach from. Just going to move the knees under the hips and the hands or elbows under the shoulders. Be careful you're not dipping your back here like this. Almost think of what you've just done with kind of around your core muscles, as if you're trying to slightly draw the belly up into your body without completely rounding into a cat stretch, okay? So just a little bit of a lift and pull up from the belly as if it's coming away from the floor. Think of your shoulder blades as almost widening apart to keep stable. And all we're going to do here is take a breath. Think of again of stability through the center of your body, and we're just going to reach the right arm forward. Take a breath, pull it back in. So it doesn't seem like you're doing an awful lot, but remember that sensation of slightly lifting the belly up from the floor. I'm alternating here right and left. If you're staying on your wrists, the same as me, I would go for quite a wide stance through the fingers. If it feels okay, and I'm just going to swap to this position as you continue, rather than coming to the floor, you could go for a little bit more height. However, I wouldn't go for too much height there if you are prone to subluxing shoulders, or if you have air loss, Dan loss. I certainly wouldn't go any higher than a small lift, just to keep your shoulders safe. So belly slightly scooped up, we're breathing out as we extend, hand forward along the floor, alternating left, right, or with a small lift up. And we're just going to take another 3 there. I want you to really notice whether you're rocking around anywhere in your body. We don't want that. We were looking for stability, which is super important for anyone with chronic health conditions. Have a quick moment off your shoulders. You sit it back, give the wrists a roll. Sit up, give the shoulders a roll. We're then going to swap and do the same with the legs, okay? So you might need a little bit more room behind you. Again, this is fine to lean on a sofa, edge of a bed, edge of a chair, on your forearms on the floor, whatever suits you here. I want you to, again, just scoop up the belly ever so slightly. So you don't want that dip and sag into the back. Lift up into the belly. Think of widening apart the shoulders. And then with the right leg, I'm slowly just going to extend it along the floor. Slide it back in. And again, you're looking to avoid being all over the place with your pelvis, your torso, your shoulders even. We're swapping left and right the same way. You can just work through it steady in your own time. I want you to try and take a breath in first, so you can breathe out on that movement. And if you feel like you can kind of go a bit further with it, as you extend the leg back, think of squeezing into that same side bum cheek slightly. Nothing too tense, only the slightest sort of mind to muscle connection. And I would say if you suffer with anything like sciatica, I certainly wouldn't go any further than this. If you feel okay, you could do the same thing as what we did with the arms and extend back at a really small lift. You have to be very, very careful here that that lift is small, because what you don't want to do is kick the leg in the air and you start dipping your back, losing your core engagement. So if you're not sure, just steady along the floor. We're trying to breathe with it, so don't go too fast. Deep breath first. Core engage. Breathe out to lengthen. We're just going to take about another 4 here. Remember that sensation of just slightly scooping up the belly away from the floor. Last 2. And then final 1. And then when you're ready, I just want you to find any comfortable relaxation position. It might be you just sit back into a child's pose. It might be that you slowly bring yourself upright. It might be that you lie yourself down on your back. You're just going to close the eyes at this point. Don't need any muscles engaged. We're going to return to those deep breaths one last time. If it's useful, hands can place onto the rib cage. Feel the hands expand out as you take an inhale. Remember, if you've got any issues with your chest like I have, your breathing might sound a little bit different to mine. Don't force that deep breath if it doesn't suit you. And I'm just going to go for 3. 2. And 1. And then to finish with, bringing yourself upright, kneeling, seated, in a chair, whatever. I'm just going to gently do some shoulder rolls. Again, I want you to be really careful if you're prone to subluxing in your shoulders, or if you have hypermobility or air loss, Dan loss. Just make these quite small, but think of just drawing the shoulders slightly forward, slightly up to ears, and then drawing them back. If you haven't got any issues with joints, you're not prone to any problems with your shoulders, you can make it a little bit bigger, but only if it feels okay for you. We do tend to hold quite a lot of tension in our shoulders, or it's certainly something I see quite a lot of. I'm just going to take 2 more. Last one. And that's where we're finishing for today. Hopefully that's been a straightforward enough introduction. Please do drop me maybe a private message or something like that to let me know how you feel. It's important not only to note how you feel as you're moving through exercise, but also in these sort of 24, 48 hours afterwards. What we don't want to do is send, for all of us, and I know we've got all different sorts of conditions, but we don't want to send anybody into a flare-up, and that's why we have to be extremely careful with our body. And you know what, as a human being that tries to move through a lot of pain, I don't always get it right, which is why I want you to start gentle. So even if it feels too easy, that's a great problem to have, because we cannot easily scale it up. But yeah, do let me know and enjoy the rest of your day.